You bastard. You ignored me. That's why I slept with him. The ring is mine. You're a thief. My wife screamed and sued me when I took back the 18K white gold engagement ring. Then went crazy and destroyed my car after the court's final verdict. When my grandfather passed away, he left me as his main heir. He not only left me some money, but also his house and, more importantly, the engagement ring that had belonged to my grandmother. Even while he was alive, he had shown it to me many times. He always said that the day I found the right woman, I should use it to propose. He kept telling me that this ring represented what a commitment truly was and that I should only give it to someone who deserved it. Now, looking back, it's clear to me that I didn't choose well. My wife destroyed our marriage with her infidelity, but at least I was able to get the ring back. And before anyone judges me or thinks I'm greedy for what I did, I want you to understand the real value of that jewel. I'm not just talking about the money, but about the history engraved in it. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. The war broke out when he was very young, and my grandmother, his then-girlfriend, waited for him for almost 7 years. They wrote to each other constantly. My grandfather said he survived all that thinking of her, that her face was what kept him alive. He served 2 years in combat, and when the war ended, he was assigned to West Germany, in the zone controlled by the United States. He remained there for a few more years, helping with the reconstruction of destroyed cities. During that time, he traveled frequently to Switzerland, and it was on one of those visits that he had the ring made. He always said he met a jeweler in Lucerne who made custom pieces and wanted that jewel to be unique. He had 18-karat white gold worked with a central diamond and 2 small sapphires on the sides. Inside, he engraved 1949, the year he planned to return to the United States to get married. In the end, he didn't make it that year, but he did return shortly after. My grandmother waited for him all that time. When he returned, he proposed to her and gave her that ring. My grandmother accepted through tears. They were together for almost 50 years until she passed away, about 20 years before my grandfather. He never remarried. A couple of years before he died, he showed me the ring once more and told me the whole story. He told me it wasn't just a jewel, but a living promise, a proof of loyalty in the hardest times. When he passed away in 2010, he left me his savings, the family home, and the ring as inheritance. In his will, he wrote that he did so because he trusted that I would know how to take care of what he and my grandmother built. At that moment, I didn't grasp the weight of that gesture. Out of curiosity, sometime later I had it appraised. They told me its value exceeded $20,000, but that because of the signature of the Swiss goldsmith, it could be worth much more at auction. Even so, it never crossed my mind to sell it. For me, it was a family relic, a symbol of what it means to truly love someone. And when, after 6 years of relationship, I proposed to Priscilla, I was convinced that she would be the right woman to wear it. Priscilla loved the ring. When I told her the story, she was moved. She said she would cherish it like a treasure, that we could even give it to our future children someday. I believed her. At that moment, I had no reason to doubt her. She was the person I wanted to grow old with, the one who knew my fears and my plans. But 5 years after we got married, I discovered she was cheating on me. It was a devastating blow because I never saw it coming. It was a neighbor who warned me. We lived in my grandfather's house, the one I inherited, the same one where I spent a good part of my childhood. I had a good relationship with the neighbors, older people who had seen me grow up. One day, one of them told me that he had seen my wife arrive in the afternoon with a man he didn't know, right at a time when she was supposedly at work. At first I thought there must be some misunderstanding, but when I asked Priscilla, I noticed the way she hesitated. That insecurity in her voice confirmed to me that something was not right. I didn't want to make a scene without proof, so I installed cameras inside the house. I waited, pretending that everything was still the same until I got the confirmation I needed. The man was just some guy, not someone special with whom she had a complicated history. She simply brought him into my house when I left, into my grandfather's house, the home where I grew up, where my grandparents had spent almost their entire lives together. Seeing that turned my stomach. I felt betrayed in a way I didn't know how to process, but I didn't react with shouts or blows. Instead, I remembered something very clear. Priscilla was vindictive. For years I saw her break friendships over trivial arguments, hold grudges over small things, and return every offense multiplied by 10. If I confronted her unprepared, I could end up ruining myself. She was capable of portraying herself as a victim, of saying anything to hurt. So I decided not to give her any room to maneuver. That night, while planning how to confront her, I made a decision. I was going to protect myself before speaking. I didn't know exactly what I would do next, but I needed to make sure she couldn't manipulate the situation or use my own assets against me. Priscilla had a habit of drinking tea before bed. That night, I served her a cup as always, but I dissolved a couple of sleeping pills in it. It was what had to be done. When she fell into a deep sleep, I got to work. In the house, there was a safe that had belonged to my grandfather. I kept copies of important documents there, the property deed, the will, bank certificates, and some old photographs. The first thing I did was check that everything was in order. Then I transferred my share of the money from the shared accounts to an individual account and canceled the joint credit cards. I wanted that when everything came to light, she couldn't touch anything that belonged to me. Then I checked the bedroom. On her dresser, Priscilla had a box with her jewelry. Some of those pieces I had given her, a necklace with matching earrings, a couple of gold bracelets, valuable things. Although some say that gifts are not returned, for me those jewels were gifts to a person who no longer existed. I didn't take them out of spite, but because I knew she would use them to harm me. So I also put them in the safe. I only left her the pieces she had bought herself. When I finished with that, I looked at her hand. She was sleeping soundly with my grandfather's ring still on her finger. I approached slowly, carefully removed it, and held it for a moment between my fingers. I felt a knot in my stomach. Inside, the engraved date, 1949, was still legible. I imagined my grandfather commissioning it, hoping to return soon, and it pained me to think that this symbol of love and loyalty had ended up in the wrong hands. I put it in the safe, changed the password, and made sure it was completely protected. I wasn't going to give her the opportunity to destroy anything that belonged to my family. When I finished, I looked at her one last time. She was still asleep, unaware that her life was about to change forever. So I tried to rest. At 6 in the morning, it seemed to me that she had slept too much. It was time for her to wake up for the last time in my house. I approached the bedroom and shook her several times until she reacted. She woke up annoyed, half disoriented, but I didn't give her time to say anything. I told her directly to take her things and get out of my house, that I already knew everything, that I knew about her infidelity, and that our marriage was over. The look of confusion on her face was almost absurd. She looked at me as if I were crazy. Then she frowned and asked me what the hell I was talking about, that she had never been unfaithful to me, that I dared to insult her for no reason. I didn't even bother to argue. I showed her part of the recordings I had obtained, where she was clearly seen entering the house with her lover in broad daylight. That was enough for her whole attitude to change. First she was speechless, then she started to cry. She said she had been confused, that it had been a mistake, that it only happened once, that she didn't know what she was thinking. When she saw that I didn't respond to her tears, she completely changed her tone. She said it was all my fault, that I had abandoned her, that we hardly talked anymore, that everything in the marriage had cooled down. The typical chain of excuses one hears when the damage is already done. None of that mattered to me. I had had plenty of time to accept her betrayal. While she was sleeping, I had also checked her cell phone and taken screenshots of conversations. Everything was more than clear. So while she was making her scene, I took out a couple of suitcases and started putting her clothes in. She tried to take them out, screaming and crying at the same time, but I was no longer willing to argue. I told her that nothing she said would change what she had done and that she would leave my house that very day. She wasn't going to spend another night under the same roof. At first, she didn't seem to take me seriously. She looked at me through tears, repeating that I couldn't leave her, that it was crazy. But when she saw that I kept packing, she changed her tune again. She said that if that's what I wanted, fine, that I would see what would happen in the divorce, that she would take half of everything, that I would regret it. She maintained that haughty attitude for a while, pacing back and forth, talking nonstop, until she approached her dresser and began to put away her makeup. Then I noticed how her expression changed. She stood still, looking at her open jewelry box. She began to check the compartments and move things quickly until she looked directly at me with a face red with rage. "Where's my jewelry?" she said. "What jewelry?" I replied. She moved her hand in front of me, showing her bare finger. "Where's my ring? Where are my things?" I looked at her without flinching. "The ring is mine, and I have no idea what jewelry you're talking about." She was silent for a few seconds, as if she couldn't believe it. Then she started screaming, saying that I couldn't do that to her, that the ring was hers, that I had given it to her on our wedding day. I approached, took the suitcases, and took them out of the room without saying anything. She followed me, out of her mind, repeating that it was theft, that she was going to report me, that I would regret it. She tried to hit me, but I managed to dodge her and push her towards the door. At that point, it was no longer a conversation. It was a scandal. I opened the door, threw the suitcases outside, and took her out of the house. She kept screaming from the garden. She said that it wouldn't stay like this, that she would ruin my life. She tried to find the keys in her purse, but I had already taken them the night before. She had no way to get in. When she noticed that the neighbors were starting to come out to watch, she left in a fury, screaming that I would regret it. And she was right about one thing. It was clear that she wouldn't leave things like that. I called a friend to ask for help. He accompanied me while a locksmith came to change all the locks on the house. I wanted to have everything secured before leaving. That same day, I made an appointment with a lawyer he recommended. He was an older man, one of those who don't impress at first glance, but his way of speaking inspired confidence. He told me that he had handled many similar cases, that he knew exactly how to manage them. The trick, he explained, is to anticipate their moves. Unfaithful people think they are smarter than others. They think they will never get caught. I told him everything without hiding anything, even what I had done with the jewelry and the ring. I told him I knew it didn't sound good, but that I needed to protect myself from what she might do. After listening to me, he devised a strategy. First, he said, it must be clear that the house was yours before the marriage and that it was also an inheritance. That is untouchable. The same with the ring. It is a family asset, an inherited object, not just any gift. That protects you legally. He paused and continued. The rest are community property, accounts, furniture, small things. But if you lived in an already furnished house, there's little to divide. Your ex. I wasn't listening carefully. It was the first time in days that I felt a little relief. And the jewelry? I asked. That's the best part, he said, smiling. At that point, we plead ignorance. If there's no proof, they don't exist. If she says there was jewelry and that you took it, let her prove it. Without invoices, there's no case. He recommended selling them or keeping them in a safe place. Then he explained that regarding the ring, there was nothing to fear. The ring is not hers, especially if it can be shown that it was part of an inheritance. You gave it to her as a symbol of marriage, but the marriage is broken. She lost any moral or legal right to wear it. I left that meeting with a clearer head. My lawyer took care of initiating the divorce proceedings, and I focused on keeping everything under control. However, only a few days passed before a court notification arrived. Priscilla had sued me. She alleged that I had stolen her jewelry and the wedding ring. When I took the lawsuit to my lawyer, he read it calmly and laughed. There she is, he said, an unfaithful woman who, instead of accepting that she was discovered, tries to play smarter than everyone else. But she's not. This lawsuit will serve us more than her. I asked him how. Very simple. We're going to make it clear that she's lying. If she can't prove the existence of that jewelry, her complaint falls apart. And with the ring, we have the will, the certificate of inheritance, and any expert appraisal that is needed. That object is not hers. If she insists, she will only be exposed. And so we did. We appeared in court and, as we imagined, Priscilla tried to play the victim. She said that I had given her that ring, that she had worn it for years, and that now I couldn't simply take it away from her as if it were just any object. Furthermore, she added that I had stolen all her jewelry, many of which, according to her, were family heirlooms. A total lie, but in reality that exaggeration worked in our favor. My lawyer had anticipated it. People like that give themselves away when they talk too much. And so it was. Priscilla showed some photos of herself wearing the jewelry, but that didn't prove ownership of anything. She had no invoices, certificates, or appraisals. When the judge asked for concrete proof, she could only say that they had been hers forever. When it was my turn to testify, I did exactly what my lawyer had recommended. I denied having taken any jewelry and said I had no idea what she was talking about. I stated that as far as I knew, she had no family jewelry. I kept it simple, without going into details. In the end, the accusation was dismissed because there was no proof of anything. Then, Priscilla focused all her attack on the ring. She said that she had witnesses that I had given it to her at our wedding, and that she had worn it for 5 years straight, to the point that she still had the mark on her finger. Her lawyer spoke of a symbolic gift of union that I could not reclaim. I did exactly the opposite. I admitted that I had given it to her as a symbol of marriage, but I clarified that this ring was not a common gift, but a documented family heirloom that belonged to my grandfather and legally belonged to me. I added that when she decided to be unfaithful, she broke the moral bond that gave her the right to wear it. The judge asked to see the ring. I took it out of its case and showed it to him. At first glance, the jewel commanded respect. White gold, a diamond in the center, sapphires on the sides, and the internal engraving of the year 1949. The judge examined it for a moment and then said in a firm tone that there was nothing to discuss. The ring belonged to my family and could not be claimed as marital property. Priscilla remained motionless, her jaw clenched. As soon as the hearing ended, she left the courthouse without looking back, furious. I knew that wouldn't be the last I heard from her, but at that moment I felt that I had recovered more than just an object. I had recovered control of my life. When the divorce was finally settled, Priscilla took almost nothing, only her share of the joint savings and some minor furniture. The house, the ring, and most of the assets remained in my name. Furthermore, the entire family group already knew what she had done because I had no qualms about exposing the truth. On the day of the signing, she gave me a look full of hatred, but I simply signed and left. I thought everything was over there, but as my lawyer told me, unfaithful people tend to think they are smarter than everyone else. And it didn't take long for her to prove it. A few weeks after the divorce, I was shopping at the supermarket when I heard my license plate number over the loudspeakers. They asked me to go to the parking lot. When I went out, I felt a hollow feeling in my stomach. My car was completely destroyed. The broken windows, the scratched paint, the dangling headlights, and someone had furiously thrown white paint. The police arrived immediately, and the supermarket staff showed me the security footage. I couldn't believe it. Priscilla was clearly seen with a bucket of paint in one hand and a bat in the other. First, she threw the paint on the hood. Then she started hitting the windows and the bodywork as if she were possessed. But the most striking thing was what happened next. When several people started to approach, she opened the passenger door through the broken window, reached in, and took something out of the glove compartment. She put it in her pocket and left. The scene was so clear that there was no room for doubt. It was her in broad daylight. I remembered that a few days before I had seen a small box with a pair of her earrings in the glove compartment that I had left there by accident. I assumed she had come back for them, but I also understood that this could work in my favor. When I spoke with my lawyer to file the complaint, an idea occurred to me. My grandfather's ring was perfectly stored in the safe in my house. No one knew that. Neither Priscilla, nor the judge, nor anyone. So in the complaint, I declared that the ring was inside the glove compartment and that she had stolen it. My lawyer's expression was one of pure satisfaction. Perfect, he told me. We're going to make her carry the cross this time. And so it was. We filed the complaint with the videos and all the details. When the hearing was held, the images were projected in the courtroom. Priscilla was seen destroying the car and then taking something from inside. She screamed that it was a lie, that she had only taken her own earrings. She even brought a small box to show them. But it was impossible to tell if they were the same. I maintained that I never kept her jewelry in the car and that what she took was my family ring. It became a back and forth of declarations, but the difference was in the evidence. This time there were no doubts about her behavior. The cameras showed her committing pure vandalism. And her previous history, with the false complaint she had made against me, worked in my favor. The judge was visibly annoyed. He said that Priscilla had shown a pattern of obsessive conduct and that the images made it clear her attempt to forcibly recover an object that did not belong to her. Although there was no conclusive evidence that she had stolen the ring, the judge considered it proven that her intention was to do so. Therefore, instead of ordering a symbolic sentence, he issued an exemplary compensation. He ordered her to pay me $10,000 for material damages to the vehicle, another $10,000 as compensation for damages and prejudice for the attempted theft of the ring, and an additional $5,000 as compensation for the costs and inconveniences of the process. In addition, she had to bear all legal expenses. But that was not all. The judge also issued a restraining order preventing her from approaching me or my home and added a special clause. For the next 5 years, she could not acquire or sell high-value assets without justifying the origin of the money. Any attempted transaction could be considered suspicious as coming from an illegal sale, especially the alleged theft of the ring. In other words, even if she had it, she couldn't sell it without exposing herself to arrest. When she heard the sentence, Priscilla turned pale. Her lawyer tried to protest, but the judge wouldn't let him speak. A couple of months later, I received the full payment, $25,000. Between that and what I got from selling her jewelry, I recovered more than I lost. It wasn't so much about the money, but about the justice of seeing her sink in her own lies. Today the ring remains in the safe, right where it belongs. Every now and then I take it out and look at it. I don't plan to sell it or use it again. It's the only thing I keep of a love story that was true, that of my grandparents. And also the reminder that not all loves deserve such a pure symbol.